Let's talk a little bit about the Hawks. Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet were sharing running back duties against the Rams. Walker went down. Charbonnet wound up with 15 carries for 47 yards. Is Walker for sure with the oblique out on Thursday night?
Yeah, I got to think he's out on Thursday night, man. I mean, Pete Carroll, it's funny. We've gotten to kind of understand Pete Carrollese a little bit since he's been here.
Right.
And when he uses words like legit to explain an injury, that's not good. All right. That the L word is code for something really bad for Kenny Walker. So
Yeah.
if they played on Sunday, maybe he'd have a shot, but I'd be fairly surprised at this point if K9 went. In the game on Thursday, which means Kenny McIntosh, the rookie, is likely going to make his regular season debut along with Zach Charbonnet and DJ Dallas. Now, Larry, let me tell you something, man. Zach Charbonnet is no pushover. I mean, this guy, the kid from UCLA, he's an absolute beast on the ground. So there's a part of me that's bummed out that K9 can't go. I'd rather have K9 than not. But I'm also looking forward to seeing Zach Charbonnet maybe getting 20, 25 carries potentially in this game on Thursday.
Yeah, Charbonnet's a big back, 6'1", 215 pounds, runs hard, almost has 5 yards a carry this year. How have they used Charbonnet to this point, Dave? I see he only has 53 carries on the year.
Yeah, well, he's spelling K9 as an obvious number 2 guy, but they like to use him as a screen guy as well. You know, the Huskies. I got the Huskies on my mind right now.
That's all right.
The Seahawks don't have a lot of great history in the screen game, and all of a sudden now you're starting to see that kind of pick up a little bit, and Zach Charbonnet's been a big factor in the screen game, man. You get him in space with blockers, and he can take advantage of that big frame. That's one area where Zach Charbonnet really has shined this year is the screen game. So kind of curious to see how much of that they use with him on Thursday if he's the number 1 featured guy.
What's the status of Geno? I know Geno's going to go, but what's he battling with right now, injury wise?
Got an elbow strain in his throwing arm. He sat out the game obviously up until that final drive this weekend against the Rams, and he's obviously the number 1 guy. I mean, there's been a lot of debate in Seattle, Geno Smith versus Drew Lock. I think the question has been answered, Larry. I mean, Geno Smith is the clear number 1 ahead of Drew Lock right now, and maybe it's a little bit unfair to Drew because the guy was getting no snaps in practice, and all of a sudden he's playing in a clutch situation against the Rams on Sunday in LA, but they're a better team with Geno Smith there than they are with Drew Lock. So what kind of effectiveness will he have? How strong is the elbow? We'll find out on Thursday, but I'd be pretty surprised if Geno Smith did not play on Thursday, man.
How good is this Seattle team overall, Dave? I mean, you've got some perspective on this. You've seen the top, the bottom, the Super Bowl champion. They're 6-4. They're 2-3 on the road. They just lost to the Rams by a single point down in LA. How good is this addition of the Hawks?
They're just massively inconsistent on offense. Massively inconsistent. I mean, you go back and look at the first half against the Rams, and they were dominating LA, Larry, in that game, crushing LA in that game. And then all of a sudden they weren't, right? They just completely lost their minds at halftime and came out and they were conservative. There was no creativity offensively with Shane Waldron. They couldn't move the ball. They couldn't convert on third down. They couldn't stay on the field. And that's been a problem for them all year long. I mean, 6-4 is not terrible, right? They should be 7-3. They should have won the game against the Rams on Sunday, like I said. But 6-4 is not terrible. The problem is if they have any shot of winning the NFC West, they probably have to win this game on Thursday at home because you lose this game and you're essentially 3 games out behind the Niners with a tiebreaker at 6-5. So this is a monster game for the Hawks division championship hopes on Thursday, man. Monster.
You know, obviously DK Metcalf's a monster, and Charvarius Ward will match up with him. Lockett is a great route runner. What do you think of the rookie from Ohio State? How's he look so far?
He hasn't done much up until last Sunday. Last Sunday was kind of his coming out party, to be honest with you. They've had a problem getting Jackson Smith and Jigba involved in the offense for whatever reason. You know, I thought they would run a lot more crossing routes with him, a lot more sweeps with Jackson Smith and Jigba, maybe even more screens to a guy like that, getting him in space and letting him take off. And it just hasn't been there. I mean, look, it's hard to get targets in this offense when you got 2 running backs in K9 and Zach Charbonnet and 2 great receivers in DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. It's going to be hard to get targets for that number 3 guy, which kind of makes you wonder, why did they spend the number 20 pick in the draft on Jackson Smith and Jigba if they're not going to get him involved? So I thought Sunday was kind of a really coming out party again for Jackson Smith and Jigba. But they got to find a way to get this guy more involved in the offense because he's a playmaker with the ball in his hands, man, big time.
Tell us about the line. I loved Cross as a rookie. Abraham Lucas was really good as a rookie. He's now hurt. So you got Stone Forsythe at right tackle, Phil Haynes at right guard. It's not the right side that you guys were envisioning. The left side, I think, is pretty good, though, with Cross and Damian Lewis, at least on paper. And I like some of these backup guys. Bradford, Oluwatimi, the kid that you guys stole from the Raiders practice squad, McClendon Curtis, I think is a future player. I mean, Schneider knows talent, and he's got some good offensive linemen here. How's this line performed? Where's the weakness?
Well, the weakness right now wasn't right tackle. Jason Peters was signed to replace Abraham Lucas, the 40-year-old. When Abe Lucas got hurt, Abe Lucas hasn't really played since September, Larry. I mean, he had a great rookie year at right tackle out of Wazoo, but he's been banged up. So we'll see if he goes on Thursday. But if he can't go, Jason Peters has played okay in his absence. As a matter of fact, they just signed Jason Peters to a contract for the regular season for the rest of the year. So they like what they've seen in him. Oluwatimi, the backup from Michigan, hasn't played a lot because Evan Brown, who they got from the Lions, actually has kind of nailed down the center spot. And then Charles Cross has been really good at left tackle. The rookie last year, second-year guy, he's been really good at left tackle. So the offensive line, actually, with the injuries that you factor in all year long, has been pretty good. I mean, I thought going into the Lion game in week 3 without Charles Cross and Abe Lucas that the offensive line was in trouble. And they actually won that game and actually played pretty well. So I think you have to give Andy Dickinson and Shane Waldron some credit for the way the offensive line has played, because they really have not been healthy all year long, yet they've been pretty damn good all season.
Before we jump and talk defense, I got to ask you about Michael Penix. We traded some texts on the UW Husky quarterback. I would think that, and you're Mr. UW Husky, so you're the guy to talk to on this. I would think that your show on KJR has got to be blowing up with get Michael Penix, get Michael Penix, get Michael Penix. I really think that they're mocking him too late. I've seen him in the second round. I've seen him in the late first. I said to you, I think he's going top 10. You shot back, and you know more about him than I do. You watch more. You said, no, he's a late first. Dave, tell me what I'm not seeing. Michael Penix, to me, looks like he's got a freaking hose.
Well, he does have a hose. He's got a great arm, but he really relies on great protection. I mean, he can sit in the pocket, and he can perform under pressure. I would go back and encourage you to watch the 50-yard pass to Roma Dunze in the end zone at Michigan State in week 4 when he was backed up, had a 7-step drop into his own end zone, guy in his face, and still found a way to get the ball to Roma Dunze. But overall, the guy just relies on great protection. He never gets hit. He never gets touched, right? He's only been sacked 7 times the entire year this season and barely got touched a year ago. So I'm just really curious about what this guy does in the NFL when he doesn't have great protection. If there's a football team with a ready-made offensive line, right, that can protect Michael Penix, I think that's the exact scenario that Michael Penix has to go to. If you're rebuilding your offensive line, that's not where Michael Penix needs to end up at in the NFL. He's got great receivers. He plays in a phenomenal system. He's got multiple players wide open on every single play. The game against Oregon State, where the numbers weren't that great, you throw it out because it was a driving rainstorm and the weather was terrible. But if you give this guy protection and you get guys open, he's going to find them, right? He's accurate as hell. He's got a laser beam for an arm. I think a lot of people look at arm strength, Larry, and just think about how far a guy can throw a football. How about going to his left side as a left-handed quarterback and then going back across the field the other way and finding a hole the size of a volleyball? That's what Michael Penix can do for you if you give the guy time to set his feet and get the ball off. So I think late first round, if there's a team like Seattle, for example, right? Seattle, who's got a pretty good offensive line. If they're looking to upgrade Geno Smith, Michael Penix would be a perfect fit for Seattle because they already have the offensive line and they already have the receivers in place.
I think, do you like Caleb Williams more?
I love Caleb Williams in the NFL. I think he's a phenomenal athlete. I think he's one of the top players in college football. I think if USC had any semblance of a defense, he'd be leading the Heisman Trophy conversation right now and looking at back-to-back Heisman winners. He's amazing. He is absolutely amazing. He's a beast to bring down. He's got a cannon for an arm. He's NFL ready right now. if college football and the NFL allowed him to leave after his sophomore year, he would have left last year, and he maybe would have been the number one pick in the draft ahead of Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. That's how much I love this guy. So, yeah, if I was picking between Caleb and Michael at the next level, right now I'm taking Caleb Williams.
And if the Hawks are picking at 22, and if the season ended this second, they would be. Would you take Penix at 22?
I would take him, yeah. I would take him because I think Geno Smith is just a guy, right? I mean, look, Geno Smith, for what he's being asked to do in Seattle, replacing Russell Wilson, he's been fine. I mean, making the playoffs, going 6-4 in his second year. I think that Seahawks fans should be pretty pleased with the job that Geno Smith has done, because there was a thought, Larry, when Russell Wilson took off, that the Seahawks were going to be terrible for a long time. And that's not happening, mostly because of Pete Carroll and the defense. Obviously, the defense playing better. But Geno Smith has been a calming presence at quarterback for them. He's been asked to do a certain job. He's done it. I don't know if he can take this team to the next level, though, and compete for a Super Bowl. As a matter of fact, I know he can't.
All right, one question before we hit the D. George Kittle the other day said he loves playing in Seattle. He's like, the atmosphere is the best in the league, and he's like, those people hate us. They truly hate us, and we can feel the hatred. Is George right? Is there true hatred from Hawks fans to the 49ers?
Well, first of all, I got news for you, pal. Every fan base in the NFL hates your guts. All right, every fan. It's not just Seattle, and there's a couple reasons why. Number one, because you guys talk and act like you've won when you haven't won a damn thing significant in 30 years. Okay, honestly, you guys act like you're the cock of the walk. You act like you're the Kansas City Chiefs. You act like you're the Eagles right now with the best record in the NFL. Hey, that's great. You guys are phenomenal in the regular season. But Kyle Shanahan, for whatever reason, still has not found a way to win a title. And you act like you're winning championships when you haven't won since Larry was 12 years old, for crying out loud. That's number one. Number two, there's no fan base, I think, that gets on Seahawk nerves like the 49ers do. And vice versa, right? We're the closest in proximity. We're 1,000 miles away. That's the way it should be. So, yes, I think the Seahawks fans can't stand San Francisco, but I also think the entire country can't stand San Francisco either.